Everybody, thank you for joining us for this Tuesday, March 15th. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and we're glad to have you with us for this Small Business Boot Camp session. We got a great presentation for you today, so let's go through some of our housekeeping, our quick stuff that we like to do. First, I'd like to highlight and recognize all our community partners. This is just a sample. We have over 140 community partners that have helped participate and support the Small Business Boot Camp over the years. We're grateful for their time, effort, and their expertise. So for those that haven't been on the Small Business Boot Camp before, it is designed to help support small businesses of 20 employees or less, though all are welcome, but to help those businesses prepare, plan, and grow as you look to the future. It is a statewide initiative supported by our community partners. And not only is it a webinar that we do every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., it is also a content library and a workshop series with our community partners. So I want to touch on the workshop series piece first. Previously, we held the webinars, the boot camp webinars every Tuesday and Thursday. And for 2022, we made some adjustments and are doing them every Tuesday morning. And then about once a month, we are working with a number of our community partners to host workshops with small business topics that can help small business owners. And so we've got the workshop series. And for example, for March on the 31st, we have a workshop with the Arizona Department of Revenue, and they're going to talk about small business taxes and transaction privilege tax. As people are working through tax season. So it's going to be a really good session with them to get some great Q&A regarding small business taxes. The other piece is our content library. And since the foundation of the Small Business Boot Camp, we recorded all of our webinar sessions, and we've compiled these together in a collection of over 200 recorded webinars in our content library. And you can access this at any time. There's no cost to access it. And as you can see on the screen, we have an ability to sort the content library by 7 different categories to help you find the webinars that may fit your needs best. Again, you can share the links for these. You can go in and review the webinar, download the materials that the presenter may have used. So it's a great resource available to everyone. It can be found at the bottom of the Small Business Bootcamp website. So you went to that website most likely to register for today's session. Bottom of the page, you can find the content library. Also, the ACA has a number of programs that support small businesses. We have our Small Business Services, our Workforce Division, and our Arizona MEP, our Manufacturing Extension Partnership. These programs are available. Just reach out to us and we can get you connected with the person in those divisions that can best help your needs. Or answer some of the questions you may have regarding some of these topics. Additionally, for those looking to start a business or expand their business into new product lines or new areas, new cities, geographic regions within the state, we have our small business checklist. And this is an online interactive resource to help entrepreneurs and business owners identify the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal level for both business licensing and industries. Certain industries do require some licensing or registration. So a lot of great information you can find there on the checklist. The checklist is an extremely detailed page. There's a ton of information, but to help have quicker access to some of this information, we do have, as you'll see on the screen there in the bottom right-hand corner, our virtual assistant, Sally. She can help you identify some of the basic needs for starting and growing your business based on city and industry. But for a very detailed version, you can jump right into the checklist program and go through it to get a plethora of information. So transitioning, I want to talk about some updates. Want to share that the city of Goodyear has a Goodyear Elevates grant. So if you're in Goodyear, we're going to post that information in the chat so you can link up to that grant and technical assistance program that they have. We are also going to be starting in April, a Small Business Digital Academy. We will post the link for that in the chat where you can get some more information on that program. It is a no-cost program. It is a 6-week cohort-style program for you to participate in. And it does require weekly participation and activities, but it is a great program that we are offering. And then just want to remind everybody, if you got a PPP loan, don't forget about loan forgiveness, and that's going to be our topic for today. We'll get into more details on that. And then we're going to post a link in the chat for the IRS's website, their Q&A website for small business taxes. They've got a lot of great information for small business owners as you're preparing your taxes during this season. So with that, I want to look at our upcoming sessions. Next Tuesday, we have Understanding the Business Model Canvas. The Business Model Canvas is a great tool that most businesses should be doing it at least once, if not twice a year, just to make sure you are focused on the right areas in your business. You can join us and learn from Tom Ardro from the North Phoenix Chamber of Commerce how to use that tool for your strategic management of your business. It's a great resource. Then on Tuesday, March 29th, we're going to have Leveraging Influencer Marketing to Drive Business Results. This is a brand new session. We haven't done this one before. We've got a great new presenter we're excited about. So please join us for that. And then on Thursday, March 31st, we have our workshop with the Arizona Department of Revenue on business tax basics. So please join us for those. We're looking forward to them. And with that, we're going to jump into today's session. We have Amber Cordova, who's the Director of Business Education and Consulting Services at Prestamos CDFI. Amber's been a great partner of ours. She's been on multiple boot camps with us, and she's going to share her expertise from the lender view on PPP forgiveness. Just a note, Prestamos CDFI was one of the top PPP lenders in the country. They did a phenomenal job helping small businesses in Arizona and all over the country with those PPP loans, and they are experts on the forgiveness process as well. So with that, Amber, I'm going to stop sharing and let you get started.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for that fantastic introduction. It's nicer than I normally get. Okay. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. Wonderful. So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, the Paycheck Protection Program and the forgiveness piece. A couple of housekeeping items. As Robert mentioned, we're going to use the Q&A feature instead of the chat, and I will go through a Q&A session at the end. I'm also available to take questions. I'll provide my email address if I'm not able to answer questions at the end today. And we'll also have a copy of the webinar and a copy of this presentation posted online either later this afternoon or tomorrow through the ACA website. Today, we're going to be talking about just a basic overview of the PPP forgiveness requirements, just what you need to do, the SBA direct forgiveness portal, and then I'll go a little bit over the forgiveness denial process and some things that you can do if you've received any kind of full or partial forgiveness denial from the SBA. So PPP in a nutshell, I think everybody knows all this, but I want to make sure that everybody understands all the basic requirements so that when you do go for forgiveness, you understand what kind of documentation you need to provide. So your PPP is forgivable. It's potentially forgivable up to 100% if you use it correctly over an 8 to 24 week period. But remember, you have to apply for forgiveness. I know there's been a lot of talk about rule changes, but it is a requirement no matter what the size of your loan that you do apply for forgiveness. Your PPP funds were designed to be used for W-2 payroll and all of your payroll taxes, including state unemployment and Social Security, the employee's portion of Social Security and Medicare, but not the employer's portion. If you are self-employed, owner compensation replacement, and other types of eligible expenses like rent, utilities, any kind of PPE, and even some changes that you might have needed to make to your establishment to make it COVID safe, in addition to supplier costs. So it's a pretty broad range. Each PPP draw has an 8 to 24 week covered period. It's up to you how much time you take to use the funds, but the minimum is 8 weeks and the maximum amount of time is 24 weeks. If for some reason you do have a partial or full portion of your PPP that is not forgiven, you will have to pay that back over a 5-year term at 1% directly to your lender. The PPP loan, if you have employees and you used employee wages in order to apply for the PPP loan, you want to make sure that you're using a minimum of 60% for payroll. You can use 100%. And then the other 40% needs to be used for eligible expenses. So when you go to apply for forgiveness, you're going to need to provide all the documentation to your lender, or if the forgiveness portal asks you for it. And remember that payroll expenses can include wages, tips, commissions, vacation, sick time, anything that you pay your employees, in addition to company paid health or retirement benefits and the state unemployment tax. It also is eligible for that 40% for any operations expenditures like your rent or lease, utilities, mortgage, if you have software, cloud computing, human resources or accounting needs, your QuickBooks Online, those are all considered operations expenditures. If you had any public disturbances issues that happened to your actual physical location in 2020, then you can also cover the costs, any property damage costs that weren't covered by insurance. And then if you purchased any PPE or adaptive instruments for your space for health and safety compliance, those are all also things that are included under that 40%. But remember, if you use PPP, if you use W-2 wages for your employees to qualify for the program, you need to use a minimum of 60% for payroll when you apply for forgiveness. Otherwise, you won't receive that full forgiveness amount. Some other things that you can use the PPP for were mortgage obligations. So that's the mortgage interest piece, rent obligations and utility payments, but all of the actual contracts needed to be in place by February 15th, 2020 in order for them to be in eligible use. So just make sure that you're aware of that when you go to apply for forgiveness. We talked a little bit about the operations expenditures, but any kind of business software, cloud computing that helped you run your business virtually. Also supplier costs, so any supplies that you purchased that were essential for business operations. And then again, that covered worker protection. So masks, sneeze guards, stickers that you got for your floor to help with social distancing, anything like that, up to a maximum of 40%. Now, if you were self-employed and you used your Schedule C to apply for PPP, then you are considered self-employed and you received owner compensation replacement if you don't have any W-2 employees. You are eligible for up to $20,833 across all businesses. So if you had multiple Schedule Cs, you should have been capped at a total PPP amount for each draw of $20,833. If you received multiple PPPs from multiple businesses, you might run into an issue when you go to apply for forgiveness. In order to be eligible for full 100% forgiveness for self-employed only, you need to use at least an 11-week covered period. And I'll get into that on another slide. And then the documentation, if you are self-employed, if you apply through the portal, it's likely that you're not going to be asked to provide any kind of documentation. If you apply directly with your lender, they might ask you for some different types of documentation on your use of funds. Because you're self-employed and this is owner compensation replacement, you really should have paid yourself through draws or through checks or transfers. However, a Schedule C might just be sufficient for some lenders. The forgiveness process is handled directly by your lender first and then sent to the SBA. So really work with your lender to make sure that you're providing them with what they need. Now, if you are self-employed, you use that Schedule C and you don't have employees, if you apply for forgiveness with a covered period of only 8 weeks, you are not going to receive full forgiveness. So you want to make sure that if you use the funds over 11 weeks, that you use at least 11 weeks. 10 weeks is going to be capped at $19,231. If you do 11 to 24 weeks, then you can apply for the full $20,833. And when you're applying with your lender, I encourage you to make sure that you take the time to make sure you put the actual correct loan amount in. in the portal for the SBA, we see a lot of people, instead of putting the 20,833, they put 20,338, or there's some kind of typo there. So we have to withdraw the application, deny it, and ask them to correct and resubmit unless they want to have to pay back that $500 difference. So be very careful, double check your numbers, double check your math. In order to apply for forgiveness for W-2 employers, if you're asked for documentation, again, you need to show that you used at least 66% of your PPP for qualified payroll. So these are going to be things like payroll reports, either quarterly or a summary report that shows each employee's name and the amount of payroll that they received during the covered period. You might also need to provide bank statements that show the payroll deductions and your quarterly 941 reports. The SBA is also asking for a lot of quarterly unemployment reports that are submitted to your state as well. If your lender or the SBA is asking you for documentation, you need to make sure that you provide it to them. Otherwise, they might deny your PPP forgiveness application. You want to make sure that you apply for forgiveness. Every business is required to apply for forgiveness, and you have 10 months from the end of your covered period. So that means that after the date that the PPP is deposited into your account, you have 8 to 24 weeks to use the funds, and then you have an additional 10 months to apply for forgiveness. If for some reason you forget or don't apply for forgiveness by the end of that 10 months plus the 8 to 24 weeks, so that's a total of 16 months, you can still apply for partial forgiveness. You'll have to start making payments back to your lender, but you can apply for forgiveness at any time, and it'll stop the payment requirement. Make sure that if you got a first draw and a second draw, you want to make sure that you apply for your first draw for forgiveness first before you apply for your second draw, to make the process easier and not to confuse things. You're going to fill out either a 3508, a 3508 easy, or a 3508S. You don't really have to worry about that. Either your lender, if you're applying directly through your lender, or the SBA will provide you the document that you will sign based on your unique situation. If you're a second draw borrower, you might need to provide that evidence of a 25% reduction. The forgiveness portal automatically assigns a score based on your situation to determine whether or not you need to provide documentation. If the portal or your lender does not ask you for backup documentation, I recommend that you don't provide anything that you're not asked for. And that 25% reduction can be profit and loss statements. It can be your 2019 versus 2020 tax returns. It can be bank statements. And then you are also going to have to provide, or you may have to provide, a use of funds documentation. So that could be copies of payroll reports, bank statements, copies of checks that are canceled, along with the invoices to things like rent or utilities. Now, if your lender is participating in the direct SBA portal, and most lenders are, you can use the direct portal, and I'll provide a little more information about that in a future slide, if your loan is under $150,000. If your PPP is $150,000 or more, you're required to go directly through your lender. And again, that's up to each lender, whether or not they do an internal process or if they're using the forgiveness portal. Each PPP loan, so if you received a first draw and a second draw, you need to provide a separate loan forgiveness application. Each draw is considered its own individual loan and does need to be forgiven. So if you got 2 draws, you will need to apply for forgiveness twice, so don't forget. Once you submit your application, whether it's through the portal or directly to your lender, they have 60 days to make their final recommendation to the SBA. Your lender will review it first, make that determination on whether they're recommending approval, and they might recommend partial or full approval, and they'll send that off to the SBA. The SBA then has 90 additional days to make a final determination on forgiveness and issue you a determination. Now, in order to apply directly onto the portal, I'm going to go quickly through the process to get signed up, because there's a couple of things to know. Once you actually get logged in, it's a pretty easy system to follow, and there's tons of tutorials. There's also a phone number that you can call to have somebody walk through. but the website is listed here. It's directforgiveness.sba.gov. When you register, remember that you can only register through the portal if your PPP loan was $150,000 or less. If it's 150 or more, you need to go directly to your lender. They recommend using Microsoft Edge or a Google Chrome browser for an optimal experience. And you do have to register in order to utilize the portal. When you log in, you're going to create a username and use your email address. You need to make sure that you provide an email address that you actually check and have access to. Once you sign up, you cannot change the email address, and you will receive emails that you do need to reply or click links on. You'll have to go through the typical process of setting up a password and the CAPTCHA as well. You will need to verify your email address by clicking the link. So again, you want to make sure you select an email address that you can check and click on. And then you have to confirm your email address before you're able to get in. So you're going to get 2 separate emails. And then once you go to sign in, you use your username, your password. If you do forget your username or password, there's also the reset capability. You're also going to have to do a 2-factor authentication. So you are going to have a US-based cell phone in order to do that. So when you go and you sign up, you will need to have your mobile phone so that you can get a text message to put into the system. You will need to do that anytime you log into the forgiveness portal. So make sure that you're using a phone that you'll have access to as well. Email and phone that you regularly check and have access to. A couple of things to consider as you're going through the forgiveness process. If you are not required to submit documentation, you should not submit documentation. So don't submit anything that's not being asked for. Again, your lender is still responsible for making the decision on your loan forgiveness, and they make the recommendation directly to the SBA, whether you apply through the portal or directly with your lender. The portal is just a user-friendly platform that's helping expedite the process and make the process a little bit easier for lenders. If you log in to your PPP forgiveness portal and there's a mistake with any of the pre-filled data, say your tax ID number, your social security number, any of that information is incorrect, you have to go directly to your PPP lender and ask them to make updates to your loan on the back end before you'll be able to apply for forgiveness. So I want to encourage you that if you're using the portal, that you double check and make sure that all of your information is accurate before you submit it. There could have been mistakes in your application process. The process to apply for forgiveness through the portal takes only about 10 minutes per application. And remember, again, you will need to do both applications, first and second draw, if you receive 2. It's a pretty quick and easy process. Again, once you submit your PPP application, your lender has 60 days to make a determination and issue that to the SBA. And then the SBA has another 90 days. So it can take several months for you to receive formal forgiveness notification on whether you've been forgiven or not. If your lender is not participating in the direct online portal, you will need to work directly with your lender. It's up to each lender whether or not they use a system. I think the majority of lenders are. And again, if your loan is $150,000 or more, you need to work directly with your lender. You cannot use the portal. If you received an EIDL advance or an EIDL loan, that won't impact your PPP or your forgiveness. Remember that 1099 contractors, those are those individuals that you pay as a subcontractor. You don't withhold taxes from the checks that you give them. Those are not considered an employee, and their expenses are not an eligible use of funds. It needs to be W-2 employees that are your employees. They're on payroll, you withhold taxes, and you send them a W-2 at the end of the year. If you have additional questions and need support through the process, the SBA has a direct forgiveness hotline. I've listed the number here, the 877 number. I believe they've got over 50 different languages for interpretation. So anybody can get assistance. You can also inbox right from your portal directly to the SBA and ask them questions. And if you have some additional questions or need support through this process, whether you got your PPP loan through Prestamos or not, We're happy to answer questions or provide you additional resources. You can also email us and we'd be happy to assist you. Oh, if you have received a forgiveness decision that's either a full or partial forgiveness denial, you will want to make sure that you appeal if you don't believe the decision is valid. So your lender might say that they're approving your PPP loan and they're recommending forgiveness, but the SBA may come back, they may ask for additional documentation, and they may end up issuing a decline or a partial decline on your forgiveness. All appeals are handled through the Office of Hearings and Appeals. It's called OHA. They don't have any jurisdiction whatsoever over decisions made by lenders. So if your lender has not given you full PPP forgiveness, then you're going to want to reach out to your lender to discuss that with them. But OHA cannot overturn or make any disputes or decisions based on what your lender has recommended to the SBA. Don't automatically assume that a mistake was not made in the review process. If you remember, there were almost 12 million PPP loans issued, and there's over 10 million, reading my notes here, over 10 million applications for forgiveness that have already been submitted as of February 20th. There's a lot of contractors working on this process and they're trying to move through things quickly to hit the deadlines. So double check, make sure that your forgiveness denial is accurate. If there's a chance that there's an error and you think that you're justified to receive full PPP forgiveness, go through the appeal process because you could be saving yourself a significant amount of money. As a borrower, once you've received the final SBA loan decision, you have 30 calendar days to file an appeal. You need to make sure you're timely because there's not going to be any exceptions on the time rule. So if you receive any kind of partial or full decline of your forgiveness and you want to appeal, make sure you do it within 30 days. You have to file through the appeals.sba.gov website. And any other way, then they will be rejected. So you have to do it directly through that email address. You're going to have to provide a copy of the final SBA loan review. You're going to have to provide a full and very specific statement, a max of 20 pages, but I would be very specific on why you think that you received why you are eligible for forgiveness. And then you want to make sure that you provide your name, address, telephone number, and email address. We have some additional resources that are available. Sorry, my kids are home from spring break. If you need assistance going through this process, then we are happy to help you out. Again, we do no cost assistance for eligible businesses. We also do a variety of our own events in addition to the ACA events. And we do have in Phoenix our CPLC Prestamos Women's Business Center. However, we do help businesses statewide. It's a women's business center, but we do support all genders. And we provide in-person and virtual coaching and business assistance. It's located at 11th Street in Buckeye. We also have some additional funding resources, and these are loans, they're not grants. There are a few grant opportunities that are out available now. But through the Maricopa County Small Business Resilience Program, we are doing a 1% growth loan up to $100,000. And then we also do microloans anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, and we do other types of loans up to or over $1 million. So you can visit us online at prestamosloans.org. And if you're interested in the Maricopa County Small Business Resilience Program, you can apply through growtobiz.org or give us a call at the number that I've provided here, and we would be happy to help you. And with that, I'm not sure if we have any questions, but I'm happy to help take any questions. I've also provided some information here on this slide. I know it's a lot. If you are one of our PPP loan clients and you have questions, you can email us at ppp@cplc.org. You can go directly to the portal, and there's tons of user guides, FAQs, and there's also that 877 multilingual customer service number.
Excellent. Thank you, Amber. So please, if you have questions, post them in the Q&A. We've got plenty of time for Q&A on those PPP. Someone asked in the chat, and it says, can you use 100% of the PPP loan for payroll?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% can be used. It just has to be a minimum of 60%, but 100% is great. That means that you use the program the way, you know, it was designed to be used, which was to use it for payroll and keep people on your payroll.
Excellent. And could you show people the, while we're waiting for questions to come in, the SBA's easy portal site?
The web address?
Yeah, the web address, and then maybe even go to it
Sure.
so they can see the form.
Let's see if I can make this happen. So it's right here. It says directforgiveness.sba.gov. Let's see. Allow. Can you see my screen, the portal?
No, we still see the pressed out your slide.
Okay, I don't think it's me. Stop share, and then I will reshare. Here we go. Okay, so this is what the actual portal looks like. You can see that now?
Yep.
Okay, so it's directforgiveness.sba.gov. And when you go onto the actual website, you'll hit this blue button, register to start your request, and it'll walk you through the process here. So you can do your username, your email, your password, and then go ahead and sign up.
Excellent. Well, we don't have any new questions. We have plenty of time. We've done some PPP forgiveness in the past, so we do have other boot camp sessions that Amber's done to help guide through this and get into some more detail. But one of the things we wanted to stress with this session is just to help remind everyone that you do have to apply for forgiveness, and there's a significant number of businesses that are still out there that haven't applied, and most of those that haven't applied are in the lower dollar ranges, indicating that they are true small businesses. And so we want to make sure that all of our businesses that participate in the boot camp here in Arizona, that they have that information needed to get the forgiveness for that loan, so you don't have to start paying off a loan unless you need to pay it off. But
yeah, as of February 20th, there's still about 2 million applications for forgiveness that need to be submitted, and over 700 or $100 billion in PPPs that still need to apply for forgiveness. It's definitely something that you don't want to pay back. I know 1% doesn't seem like a lot of interest, but when you're doing it over a 5-year term or even less now, because there's been some time, those payments can be really large. So you want to make sure that you apply for forgiveness so you don't get hit with that payment. And both draws, first draw and second draw.
Excellent, thank you. So with that, I don't mind wrapping up early. We can give everybody some time back in their day. Great presentation. The information will be posted on our website, hopefully later today, if not tomorrow. You can download the slide deck, or you can re-watch the webinar and Amber's information. And again, Amber posted her contact information in the chat. You can reach out directly to her, or you can reach out to myself or Faith. We're all happy to guide you to the resources that are available for you. So with that, do you have something, Amber?
Oh, I was just going to say, and everybody, including the lender and the SBA, is very invested in getting these PPP loans forgiven. So I highly encourage you to reach out to anybody for help, and anybody's willing to help you.
All right, excellent. Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up and give everybody some time back in their day. We hope to see you next Tuesday for our next session. Until then, everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.